low price which he was content to receive for this admirable performance, which, though he had written nothing else, would have rendered his name immortal in the world of literature. None of his writings has been so extensively diffused over Europe, for it has been translated into most, if not all, of the modern languages. This tale, with all the charms of Oriental imagery, and all the force and beauty of which the English language is capable, leads us through the most important scenes of human life, and shows us that this stage of our being is full of vanity and vexation of spirit. To those who look no further than the present life, or who maintain that human nature has not fallen from the state in which it was created, the instruction of this sublime story will be of no avail. But they who think justly, and feel with strong sensibility, will listen with eagerness and admiration to its truth and wisdom. Voltaire's Candide, written to refute the system of optimism which it has accomplished with brilliant success, is wonderfully similar in its plan and conduct to Johnson's Rasselas, insomuch that I have heard Johnson say, that if they had not been published so closely one after the other that there was not time for imitation, it would have been in vain to deny that the scheme of that which came latest was taken from the other. Though the proposition illustrated by both these works was the same, namely, that in our present state there is more evil than good, the intention of the writers was very different. Voltaire, I am afraid, meant only by wanton profaneness to obtain a sportive victory over religion, and to discredit the belief of a superintending providence. Johnson meant by showing the unsatisfactory nature of things temporal, to direct the hopes of man to things eternal. Rasselas, as was observed to me by a very accomplished lady, may be considered as a more enlarged and more deeply philosophical discourse in prose upon the interesting truth which in his Vanity of Human Wishes he had so successfully enforced in verse. The fund of thinking which this work contains is such that almost every sentence of it may furnish a subject of long meditation. I am not satisfied if a year passes without my having read it through, and at every perusal my admiration of the mind which produced it is so highly raised that I can scarcely believe that I had the honour of enjoying the intimacy of such a man. I restrain myself from quoting passages from this excellent work, or even referring to them, because I should not know what to select, or rather what to omit. I shall, however, transcribe one, as it shows how well he could state the arguments of those who believe in the appearance of departed spirits, a doctrine which it is a mistake to suppose that he himself ever positively held. "If all your fear be of apparitions," said the Prince, "I will promise you safety. There is no danger from the dead. He that is once buried will be seen no more." "That the dead are seen no more," said Imlac, "I will not undertake to maintain against the concurrent and unvaried testimony of all ages and of all nations. There is no people, rude or learned, among whom apparitions of the dead are not related and believed. This opinion, which prevails as far as human nature is diffused, could become universal only by its truth. Those that never heard of one another would not have agreed in a tale which nothing but experience can make credible. That it is doubted by single cavaliers can very little weaken the general evidence, and some who deny it with their tongues confess it by their fears. Notwithstanding my high admiration of Rasselas, I will not maintain that the morbid melancholy in Johnson's constitution may not, perhaps, have made life appear to him more insipid and unhappy than it generally is, for I am sure that he had less enjoyment from it than I have. Yet, whatever additional shade his own particular sensations may have thrown on his representation of life, attentive observation and close inquiry have convinced me that there is too much of reality in the gloomy picture. The truth, however, is that we judge of the happiness and misery of life differently at different times, according to the state of our changeable frame. I always remember a remark made to me by a Turkish lady educated in France. "Ma foi, monsieur, notre bonheur dépend de la façon que notre sang circule." This I have learnt from a pretty hard course of experience, and would, from sincere benevolence, impress upon all who honour this book with a perusal, that until a steady conviction is obtained that the present life is an imperfect state and only a passage to a better, if we comply with the divine scheme of progressive improvement, and also that it is a part of the mysterious plan of Providence that intellectual beings must be made perfect through suffering. There will be a continual recurrence of disappointment and uneasiness. But if we walk with hope in the midday sun of revelation, our temper and disposition will be such that the comforts and enjoyments in our way will be relished, while we patiently support the inconveniences and pains. After much speculation and various reasonings, I acknowledge myself convinced of the truth of Voltaire's conclusion, Après tout c'est un monde passable. But we must not think too deeply. Where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise, is in many respects more than poetically just. Let us cultivate, under the command of good principles, la théorie des sensations agréables. And, as Mr. Burke once admirably counselled a grave and anxious gentleman, live pleasant. The effect of Rasselas and of Johnson's other moral tales is thus beautifully illustrated by Mr. Courtenay. Impressive truth in splendid fiction dressed checks the vain wish and calms the troubled breast. O'er the dark mind a light celestial throws, and soothes the angry passions to repose. As oil effused illumes and smooths the deep, when round the bark the swelling surges sweep. It will be recollected that during all this year he carried on his idler, and, no doubt, was proceeding, though slowly, in his edition of Shakespeare. He, however, from that liberality which never failed when called upon to assist other labourers in literature, found time to translate for Mrs. Lennox's English version of Brumoy a dissertation on the Greek comedy and the general conclusion of the book. Note, this paper was in such high estimation before it was collected into volumes that it was seized on with avidity by various publishers of newspapers and magazines to enrich their publications. Johnson, to put a stop to this unfair proceeding, wrote for the Universal Chronicle the following advertisement, in which there is, perhaps, more pomp of words than the occasion demanded. London, January 5, 1759. Advertisement. The proprietors of the paper entitled The Idler, having found that those essays are inserted in the newspapers and magazines with so little regard to justice or decency, that the Universal Chronicle, in which they first appear, is not always mentioned, think it necessary to declare to the publishers of those collections, that however patiently they have hitherto endured these injuries, made yet more injurious by contempt, they have now determined to endure them no longer. They have already seen essays, for which a very large price is paid, transferred with the most shameless rapacity into the weekly or monthly compilations, and their right, at least for the present, alienated from them, before they could themselves be said to enjoy it. But they would not willingly be thought to want tenderness, even for men by whom no tenderness hath been shown. The past is without remedy, and shall be without resentment. But those who have been thus busy with their sickles in the fields of their neighbours are henceforward to take notice that the time of impunity is at an end. Whoever shall, without our leave, lay the hand of rapine upon our papers is to expect that we shall vindicate our due by the means which justice prescribes, and which are warranted by the immemorial prescriptions of honourable trade. We shall lay hold in our turn on their copies, degrade them from the pomp of wide margin and diffuse typography, contract them into a narrow space, and sell them at an humble price, yet not with a view of growing rich by confiscations, for we think not much better of money got by punishment than by crimes. We shall therefore, when our losses are repaid, give what profit shall remain to the Madeleines. For we know not who can be more properly taxed for the support of penitent prostitutes than prostitutes in whom there yet appears neither penitence nor shame. End of note. An inquiry into the state of foreign countries was an object that seems at all times to have interested Johnson. Hence Mr. Newberry found no great difficulty in persuading him to write the introduction to a collection of voyages and travels published by him under the title of The World Displayed, the first volume of which appeared this year, and the remaining volumes in subsequent years. I would ascribe to this year the following letter to a son of one of his early friends at Lichfield, Mr. Joseph Simpson, barrister, and author of a tract entitled Reflections on the Study of Law. If you married imprudently, you miscarried at your own hazard, at an age when you had a right of choice. It would be hard if the man might not